Today we're going to study page 22 in Shabbat. We're going to zoom in a lot of halachot in regard to Hanukkah, upcoming celebration, and it's very much connected to halachot of Shabbat in the sense of lighting candles. When it's come to Hanukkah, there is a lot of questions. Yesterday we discussed a little bit history, and today we're going to elaborate a lot with the halachot, with Pirsum Enisa, publicizing the miracles, using a certain candles, the size, the heights, the locations, and more. Now we try to juxtapose Hilchot Nezikim, damage law, to Hilchot Hanukkah. Soon you see the connection. In Gemara you see it many times. They juxtapose the two different locations in order to learn something. We are 6 lines from the bottom of page 21b. Tnan hatam gets ayotze mitachat apatish ויצא והזיק חייב. The Mishna teaches in Baba Kama 62b. In the halachot with a damage, meaning Mr. let's call him Reuven, did damage to Mr. Shimon. Mr. Reuven has a lab or has a some type of craftsman, and he's walking and he uses, for example, a big hammer, and he is pushing the hammer stronger and stronger and stronger, and then while he's doing that, a spark came out from the hammer and went out and is just damaged someone else. For example, he's walking next to a window of a fellow, and while he's walking on the materials, that little spark jumped to the window and either create a fire or broke the window. Now, another example. גמל שטעון פשטן והוא עובר ברשות הרבים ונכנסה פשטנו לתוך החנות. It's a camel that is laden with flax, and that camel go in the public domain, and while he is carry this camel carry this flax, his flax enter into a store, and ודלקה בנרו של חלבני, and they caught a fire from the storekeeper's lamp, and והדליק את הבירה, and they set a fire to the building. So you ask what this has to do with us. Soon you see the connection, but first let's understand what's all about. So they said Baal HaGamal Chayav, the owner of the camel, he needs to pay for the damage. What's this story? The owner of the camel, Rashi explained, he is responsible because he put on a camel a lot of flax, and the camels move from one location to another in a sense that he wasn't in control of him. And because he loaded so much on the camel, he is responsible. As a side note, the Gemara over there in Baba Kama asks a question: what's the chiyuv? What exactly the obligation of the owner? There is one school of thought. It's called Isho Mishum Chitzav, which means that anything that happened, Reuven is responsible. Which is, since Reuven is the cause of the causes, he loaded on the camel a lot of materials, so therefore whatever happened, even it's a fire, and from the fire is going another fire, and it's all you put on the burden of the responsibility of the damage on Reuven. It's called Mishum Chitzav because he is the one who created it. There is a second school of thought that it's called Isho Mishum Amono, which means Reuven is responsible for the beginning, but then from that point, when that fire carry on the future damages, it's not in the responsibility of the one who started, but is a responsibility for those who are in charge of the carry on the fire from one location to another. In other words, we exempt him in that opinion from the responsibility of carrying the fire. Now to our subject. However, הניח את נרו מבחוץ, חנווני חייב. So if the owner of the store put the lamp outside, those days it wasn't electricity, so you may say that the possibility here is you just have a large lamp that bring light to his business, and he put it outside. Now the problem is, in the public domain outside of his store, there are those business and people that pass by, all these pedestrians and all these people that loaded and unloaded materials. So he is responsible for whatever happened since he put it in a public domain. Now is the key point. Rabbi Yehuda Omer, Bener Hanukkah Patur. Rabbi Yehuda said that if the flax is basically burned with the Hanukkah candles, which means the store owner, he is outside of his store, he lighting Hanukkah candles, as we said yesterday, because he wanted to publicize the miracle. Now, the rabbis told us to put the Hanukkah candles and to promulgate the miracles outside. So what did he do? He wants to publicize it, he put it outside, and therefore the people who pass by, they carry the burden to watch over. It's a Hanukkah's time. You know that people putting outside the candles. So it's not his responsibility. By the way, this is the only source in the entire Mishnah for Hanukkah. The only source. Here Rabbi Yehuda said that in the Hanukkah candles he is exempt. So now the Gemara elaborates on that, wants to make it clear. And they said, Amar Ravina Mishum de Rabba, in the name of Rabba, זאת אומרת נר חנוכה מצווה להניחה בתוך 10, דאיסלקא דתך למעלה מ10, לימלא היה לך להניח למעלה מגמל ורוחבו. We derive from that you remember when we study Sukkah, so we learned that you need to have the minimum size of the height of the Sukkah, Halacha Moshe Sinai, has to be 10 tfachim and up. So in order to, when you light the candles, in order to use the light, so you usually put it in a high, because when you put it high, then it's spread and you can see it. Now, if you put the Hanukkah candles in the low level, so it's clear that you put it for the purpose of the mitzvah. The Rosh explained to us that the minute you put it lower, it's make it very clear that that's for the mitzvah. So now, what do we derive from that? That you have to put it in 10 tfachim. 10, it's a handbreadth from the ground. Because otherwise, Leimalei, the one who, damagee, will say to the store owner, you should put a highest than the camel and his rider, because everybody knows that it's dangerous to put it lower. But the Gemara rejected that point, and it said, "V'dilma imitrecha leituva ate leimnu mitzvah." The sages was worried that if the one who lighting the Hanukkah candles in a public domain, he purposely need to put it in the place that is high, so it will be a extra imposition for him. It was a har for him, and therefore he will avoid himself from fulfilling the mitzvah. So therefore they allow him to put it in a lower level, and therefore we understand that the store owner did it right and he's exempt, but we never impose on him to put it purposely below than 10 tfachim. As a side note, the Rambam did not bring this Rava's opinion because the Gemara rejected his opinion. But if later we have the concluding halacha in Shulchan Aruch, so in Shulchan Aruch Taf Resh Ayin Vav 676 chapter, he said that lechatchila, the way it should be, the mitzvah to put Hanukkah candles between shlosha tfachim, 3 hand breadth, above the ground. But if you put it higher than that, it's okay, but it's not lechatchila, as long as it's not exceeded more than 20 amot. The same as sukkah in that sense. Several years ago, I think you remember, I produced several CDs and lectures over Hanukkah, and at least one of them specialized in this, in the whole halakhot of Hanukkah, as far as the size, location, etc. Amar Rav Kahana, another thing in regard to place of Hanukkah candle, Darash Rav Natan bar Yumi Mishmed Rabbi Tanchum. Rabbi Yumi, when now we're going to study several things from this great rabbi, Rav Natan bar Yumi, in the name of Rabbi Tanchum. 22, the top of the page. ner shel Hanukkah shenicha lemala מ-20 אמה פסולה. If you put the Hanukkah candles above the 20 amma, this is the side of amma, it's invalid. If you remember, that's very similar to Sukkot, because they say that the eye cannot control so high above the 20 amma, and therefore the whole idea of promulgate, the publicize the miracle, is not applicable here. So therefore it's like the same as the Sukkah. Sukkah kemavoy, the same as Sukkah and Mavoy, that the Sukkah we say that if the schach is above the 20 amma, and the same thing is in a Mavoy, that if you don't have the Korah, that at the enter, if you remember when we study Mavoy, so you cannot carry on Shabbat if it's above the 20 amma. The reason that we use the word psula, the Tosfot here elaborates on that, and he said that in a sense of invalid, invalid you can fix it. How? You extinguish the fire, and then you relight it, and then you put it again in the right location. So so Tosfot tells us that it has to do it in a certain way. V'amar Rav Kahana. Now we study another drasha, since we mentioned that name. Darash Rav Natan bar Yumi Mishmed Rav Tanchum. Mai dechtiv aborek en bo mai. What does that mean when Torah told us about Joseph and his brothers? That they put him in a pit in Bereshit in Genesis 37, and they said the pit is empty, is no water. If you tell me that the pit is empty, obviously, mimashna shnemar vaporek, and Yudea she'en bo mayim, isn't that clear that he doesn't have? If you tell me someone put in a pit, Joseph was put in a pit by his brothers, so it's clearly that because he is in a pit, is no water. Why need to repeat? Elamat Talmud lomar en bo mayim. So why the Torah said en bo mayim, that there is no water? Mayim en bo, amenechashiv v'akramim yesh bo. There is no water, but is a scorpion and snake, which means the brother Reuven wasn't involved. He wants to put him in a pit because he wants to save him. The other brother didn't know. They didn't realize, the Ramban said, that it's such a great miracle that even it was a scorpion and the snakes, because he was a righteous man, they didn't harm him. But the Vilna Gaon, as a side note, tells us that this applies also to the Torah, and it's very important. He said, Mayim, the water, is always an allegory to Torah. So he said, Ve'abo re'ek, if a person not involved, occupy himself in the life of Torah, so he said, En bo mayim, so it's no Torah, it's no water. So right away, who entered to a person's mind? Scorpions and snakes. Then he gets in trouble. The minute he empty himself from Torah, from water, then obviously other things come in. Amar Rabba, Ner Hanukkah mitzvah להניח בטפח הסמוכה לפתח. So another halacha in regard to putting the Hanukkah, that he has to put it regardless if he's open his house to a public domain or not. He have to put it at the entrance, because let's face it, some people are living in townhouses or row houses, and the entrance is not necessarily to the public domain. It can be to the internal development or to the yard. People who are basically tenant to a attic, basement, backyard, etc. So he said, as long as it's the entrance, תפח הסמוך לפתח, that the handbread, the adjunct to the entrance, that's because otherwise it's nobody knows that the owner of the house put it there. It will not be recognized. והיכן מנחלי, in what side of the entrance he should put it? רב אחא ברי דרבא אמר מימין, he said in the right side. רב שמואל מדיפתי אמר משמאל, on the left side. והלכתה, and the halacha, משמאל, that you put the Hanukkah candles at the left entrance. Why? כדי שתהא חנוכה משמאל מזוזה מימין. In order for a person to be around mitzvot, in one side there is a mezuzah, and the other side is a Hanukkah candle, so he is surrounding with mitzvot. The halacha is that anyway, if he put the Hanukkah candles on the right side, he still fulfilled the mitzvah. The Mishnah Brura and Tafrei Shayin Aleph said that it still fulfilled it. The Gemara and Yoma tell us why we need to put the mezuzah on the right side. But anyway, it's just to have the person surrounded himself with mitzvot. Now we go back to the subject of using the Hanukkah candles for Hanukkah. We talk about using the Hanukkah, so explain that that it has to be dedicated the purpose of Hanukkah. So if you need to check money, so since we said that asur l'ishtamesh le'ora, that we should not use the light of the Hanukkah, so how you cannot use it even for exchanging money, count money. Balaam will explain that there is a controversy here. Rav hold that even for the purpose of mitzvah, you cannot use the Hanukkah candles. The same, for example, if you need the Hanukkah candles for the meal of mitzvah, like a Shabbat meal, or you need it for teaching Torah, he said that you cannot use it. Rav Asi hold, no, this is only prohibited for what? For something that it's is nothing to do with a mitzvah. Like you want just to count money with the Hanukkah candles. But if you want to study Torah with the Hanukkah candles, it's fine, because Rav Asi hold that it just you don't want to denigrate the value of the Hanukkah candles. So therefore, it applies only to the something that it's nothing to do with mitzvah. But not everyone follow that. The Ran said that even for the purpose of mitzvah, it's a problem. Anyway, Ki Amrita Kameh Shmuel. When Rav Asi said it before Shmuel, Amar li, Shmuel said, V'chi ner kedusha yesh ba. You tell me the Hanukkah candles carry any kedusha, any sanctity that you cannot use it? For sure not. So you can count money with the Hanukkah candles. Matkef la Rav Yosef, v'chi dam kedusha yesh po. So now we try to juxtapose from something else. They said when you slaughter for the sacrifice, using animal or one of those mitzvot of offering in the Torah. So the Torah said that you cannot cover. You have to take the blood and whatever left over, you cover it with a certain dirt. But that apply only to certain animals, not to, for example, sheep. It's not. But the Torah said in the Vayikra in Leviticus 17 that you have to a mitzvah of kisui afar. So why? Because it's bizui mitzvah. It's otherwise it's denigrating the value of mitzvah. The Tanya, v'shafach v'chisau, b'meshe shafach yechaseh. Because they use the term v'shafach v'chisa hu. So we learn that the place that he spilled the blood, which means in his hand, he should cover the blood. Shelo yichasenu baregel. He should not use his leg to cover the blood. Why? Shelo yu mitzvot bzuyot alav. That the mitzvot will not be contemptible to him. In other words, he should not denigrate the mitzvah. So we now juxtapose to Hanukkah, and we say the Hanukkah, even that there is no special sanctity, but you shouldn't use the light of Hanukkah in order for you not to belittle. But Shmuel doesn't hold that way. Shmuel said that you cannot compare Hanukkah candles to the covering the blood with your legs, because when you do it with your legs, it's like denigrating the mitzvah with your own body, because that's the way that you make the mitzvah. But when you count money with the Hanukkah candles, you didn't denigrate the mitzvah. You don't use the candles, you just use the light that's coming out of the candles. So it's different. So Shmuel hold that to use the body of the candles, it's an issue. But and that's the reason why he forbids to transfer fire from one candles to the next. Baumina. Rabbi Yehoshua ben Levi, ma'u leistapek minuyei sukkah kol shiva. As you know, that part of the sukkah celebration, we beautify the sukkah. So during these 7 days of Sukkot, we take all different beautiful things and we put. One of the things they used to do it, especially in those days, they used to put special fruits in a sukkah. So the question is, can you pull out some fruits and אמר להם, הרי אמרו, אסור להרצות מאוד נגד חנוכה. We just said that you have yichud mitzvah, that you have a designation of mitzvah for certain purpose. So since you designate for the mitzvah the Hanukkah candles and you use it purposely for that, so that's apply also to sukkah, that you designated it for the sukkah, even just to beautify the sukkah, and you shouldn't use it for other purpose. Amar Rav Yosef Mared Avraham. It's like a statement. The master of Abraham Avinu. It's like he wants to express himself. And he said, Talei Tanya Beldo Tanya. Rabbi Shua ben Levi, he hold here something that we said it clearly, Sukkah Tanya, Hanukkah lo Tanya. The din of Sukkah, that you cannot use the unification of Sukkah, that's we said clearly. But Hanukkah, we didn't study that you cannot use it for counting money. The Tanya. Now here's the Braita. Sikecha kehilchata. If you cover the roof of the sukkah according to the halacha requirement. Ve'itra bikramim ubizdinim amtsuyarim, and he decorated it with colorful curtains and beautiful sheets and hung it in the ornament knot. And he said, ותלה באגוזין אפרסקים שקדים ורימונים ופרקילי ענבים ועטרות של שיבונים, ינות של שמנים וסלטות, which means he put nuts and peaches and almonds and pomegranates and grape branches and a wreath of stalks of grain and wine and oils and vessel full of flowers. right? So all this beautification of Sukkah, אסור להסתפק בהם עד מוצאי ראש החג. So we are forbidden to use them until the end, the last day of the festival. Why? Because you designated it for the beautification of Sukkah, so it's designated for that. And the Mishnah Brura said in Taf Reish Lamed Chet that because it katzai, because it's for that purpose. So let's say even that it was on the roof, if that pomegranate fall on the ground, and you pick it up and you put it on a table, but still, since it was designated for Sukkah, so at the end of the festival you shouldn't use it. Why it's continue on until the end of the Chag, until the Shmini Atzeret, and it's no longer the mitzvah of Sukkah. So they explain here in the Tosfot, because the time of the Shmini Atzeret is between day and night, and because of that, the question is if the Shmini Atzeret entrance, which is the Ben Hashmashot between the Tzet and the time of the end of Sukkot, it's the question is if it's that Chag or not. Outside of Eretz Israel, so it's for sure it's still mitzvah Sukkah misafek, because you're not sure if you still. So therefore, all the noise Sukkah, all the beautification of the Sukkah, it's still prohibited. And because we learn the idea of muktzeh, that something it's a designate for certain things, so it's muktzeh. So because it's muktzeh at Ben Hashmashot before the entrance of the holidays, so that muktzeh carry on until the end of the day. That's what Tosfot said. So he said, "Ve'im itna alehem, ve'im itna alehem, akol efitnao." But if a person put a condition, he said there's a very clear condition in advance that the minutes that they have the holidays, which is the Ben Hashmashot, it's about to begin the first day of the holiday. He want to designate those beautification for that purpose. So therefore he can use it. The Beit Yosef said that that's applied to all the 8 days, because akol efit now, it's all depend upon the condition, the stipulation he made in advance. So the conclusion, El Amar Rav Yosef avuhon dechulhu dam. So we learn all of that from the mitzvah of kisui adam, which means since the Torah said the word veshafach vekisa, we learn that the mitzvot should not be denigrated by a person, should not belittle them. So the same apply to using the Hanukkah candles for counting money, or using the beauty of Sukkah for other purposes, in order for a person not to have a bizui mitzvah, not to belittle the mitzvah. The Pnei Yoshua said that he feels that that's the source for all of that. Tosfot disagree. He said that the whole idea is muktzeh, and they said that that's apply only to Shabbat and Yom Tov, that you have muktzeh, but in intermediary days like the Chol HaMoed, it's not applicable. Anyway, the clear point is that since this beauty of Sukkah, it's for that purpose of the mitzvah, and some said because if you're eating it during the holidays, it's belittle the mitzvah, because you're basically changing the status of those. In a sense, it's like a sacred. You designate for a certain purpose and now you use it. But that's the discussion. Itma. They said that 3 things. Even we are dealing with Hanukkah candles, but we elaborate on that in 3 things that Rav and Shmuel disagree. So Rashi said that any place that Rav disagree with Shmuel, in Isurim it's always go by the Rav. Rav Amar en madlikim min ner lener. Rav said that you cannot transfer fire from one Hanukkah candles to another. Ushmuel Amar madlikim. Shmuel said, later we explained that you can transfer a fire from one candle of Hanukkah to another. Rav Amar en matirim tzitzit mi beged lebeged. You basically, when you have the tzitzit, you may not unite the tzitzit from one garment in order to fix them to another garment. So the Tosfot here in Dibur Matchil Rav explains that it's again bizui mitzvah, that the first garment you belittle, even from the old one to a new one. Shmuel Amar matirim mebegel level. Shmuel said that it's okay, you unite them from one garment to affix another garment. Rav Amar en halacha Rabbi Shimon begrira. Rav said that the halacha is not according to the opinion of Rabbi Shimon in the case of degrading. Shmuel Amar halacha Rabbi Shimon begrira. And the others said that Rabbi Shimon permitted dragging object on Shabbat even if as a result a furrow will be dug in the ground, and because it wasn't in a person's intent to dig a hole. So you carry it, and meanwhile it's a hole in the ground. Amar Abaye kol mile amar avid kerav. Whatever we always go by the Rav, which was the rabbi of the Abaye. Levad man eklad David k'Shmuel, excluding these three places that you go by the Shmuel's opinion. Madlikim miner lener, that you can transfer fire of Hanukkah from one place to another. Matirim tzitzit mebeg lebeg, you can transfer tzitzit from one to the other. V'halacha Rabbi Shimon begrira, and the halacha is according to the opinion of Rabbi Shimon in the case of dragging. So now we elaborate on grira. We said the Tanya Rabbi Shimon omer gorer adam mita kiseh v'safsal. A person can drag on Shabbat a bed, chair, and bench. So basically, it's like chofer gumot. You create a charitz, you create some hole in the ground, and that's clothing. It's choresh or boneh, that you are in some sort of building something. So he said it's only with condition bilvad shelo yitkaven la'asot charitz, which means that the person did not intend to have a hole in the ground, because there is a concept, a very important concept, that deal with davar she'eno mitkaven. If a person intend to do something, it's one thing. If not, then it's different thing. Because later we explain in the Mem Aleph in page 41 that we differentiate between you do something that it's permissible, but while you're doing that, it may happen that indirectly other forbidden word will made. For example, you carry on the ground a bed, so you just relocate the bed from one location to another. And it's all can be in the private domain.
It has to be within the private domain.
Yes, but meanwhile, while you're dragging it,
right,
you create something in the ground that is a hole in the ground. So you may say that it is harisha, that is plowing or binyan or building. So Rabbi Shimon said that davar she'eno mitkaven mutar, that if you not intend to do it and it just happened, it's permissible. Which means you can drag this bed if you don't meant to do this charitz, this hole in the ground. Rabbi Yehuda forbids it, and he said that you cannot. He said davar she'eno mitkaven asur, that even you don't intend it, since it create either harisha or binyan, either one of these two melachot, you are forbidden. So Abaye said that Rav Bar Nachmani agreed to his opinion that Shmuel, that he rule according to Rabbi Shimon. Now we dealing with the first dispute. Yativ Omer Rabbanan kamed Rabba Barava. V'yativ Kamar, one of the sages said as follows: Tamad Rav, the reason that Rav forbade to do what? To transfer fire from one candle to another. Mishum bizui mitzvah, that is like belittle the mitzvah. Why? Because when you're taking a little stick from the first candle in order to transfer it to another one, you're in a sense denigrated the mitzvah of the first one. Rashi explained that it's all for the same mitzvah of Hanukkah, but that's what he feels, that it's like bizui mitzvah, belittle, denigrating the mitzvah. Amarlu. So Rav Barava responded and he said, Lo tetzaytulei, don't listen to him. Why? Ta'amei de Rav, the reason that Rav forbade to transfer from one candle to another, mishum de kaka makhish mitzvah. It's like he is denigrating, reduce the amount of mitzvah. Why? Because when we take from the candles of mitzvah, it looks like he reduced the light of the candles, and he takes some of the oil. Remember that those candles carry oils, like candles that made of the olive oil, for example. So when you're transferring, you reduce some of the oil that carried in one location. So the big machloket here, if it's the impression that you mema'et, you reduce the mitzvah from the first one. In other words, the machloket, the disputation is not if you're just transferring, but if you're transferring by transferring, you reduce some of the oil, and then it's considering denigration of one mitzvah. My benai, what's the difference? Ika benayu the madlik mishraga lishraga. That the difference between them is if you light from lamp to lamp without using a wood chip or another lamp to light a second lamp. So he said, Khatam Sofer, by the way, has a very interesting approach here. Don't go there. Man amar mishum bizui mitzvah mishraga leshraga madlik. The one said that using from because of the contempt of mitzvah, directly from lamp to lamp, even a lighting another Hanukkah lamp, he does not thereby demean the sanctity of the mitzvah, because of the second lamp is also a mitzvah. So it's okay. Man damar mishum akhushe mitzvah mishraga leshraga name asu. Okay, so you learn from this that you should not use asur lishtamesh leora. You cannot use the light of the Hanukkah, even for the purpose of mitzvah. It's there's a big machloket among the achronim if that's related to chavivut mitzvah, that the beauty, the cherishing mitzvah or not. So what you see here, that Rav basically forbids to transferring that even directly from one candle to another, and for sure by using some type of stick, because according to the one who said that Rav's reason, it's because he weakened the mitzvah. So lighting directly from lamp to lamp is also prohibited, as he is basically utilizes the mitzvah lamp for the task that he could have accomplished with something that is non-sacred lamp. Mativ Rav Avya. So now we ask a question from the first braita of Rav. So Rav Avya asked, Sela shel maaser. Maaser sheni, we'll turn the page 22b. En shoklim kenegdo dinrei zav, ואפילו לחלל עליו מעשר שני אחר. Introduction. The fruits of the land of Israel, they have the obligation by the Torah to give a tithe. It's called hafrashat ma'asrot. You have to put a tithe out of those fruits. We explained many times that there is different tithe. There is the one that is called ma'aser rishon, the first tithe, that we basically bring it to the Levi who serve in Beit HaMikdash, and in a certain years we bring a second tithe. It's called Ma'aser Sheni. The mitzvah is that tithe, the owner needs to bring his tithe to Yerushalayim, to Jerusalem, and needs to eat it in Yerushalayim. But sometimes, imagine if you own a large property, and you have there a lot of fruits. So what you do, you can do which called pidyon. You can take this and transfer it to money, and then you carry the money to Yerushalayim, and now you can use that money to purchase some food that you're going to eat in Yerushalayim. So in other words, you taking the tithe. Let's say the tithe's value in our language is $500. So instead of transferring the oranges from your field, if you own orange field, you transfer it to 500. You go to Yerushalayim, and now with the 500 you buy food, and you eat the food in Yerushalayim. So what happened to that money that you use it for the second tithe, for Maaser Sheni? Because the sanctity of the fruit transfer to the coin, which means originally you have that 500 value in the oranges. Now it transfer to the coin or to the bills. So now the bills has kedusha, has sanctity, and we cannot have any bizayon, anything that it's inappropriate, because they have a sanctity on that particular bill of money. All right. So he said, "Afilu lechalel alav maaser sheni acher," even to redeem another second tithe produced with it. That's even that it's not. For example, you want to use a measurement to put this money, this coin in one place and to measure others. Even that it's not forbidden, because they have certain kedusha. So now we elaborate on that. They said, if you tell me that the machloket between Rav and Shmuel, it's if someone transferred directly from one candle to another without using any stick, aval bekinsa asar Shmuel. But Shmuel said that even using a stick is forbidden. This will not be a response to what Shmuel said. Why? Because this type of money has the same halachic ruling as a stick. It's considering chulin. It doesn't have the kedusha. Only thing he wanted is he want to use it for another purpose of mitzvah. So even Shmuel said that you cannot do it. But if you say that it's only apply to what? To using the stick, ha teheve tjuvta. So it will be the same as a unsolved issue. It's a question. Why? Because the prohibition of using this coin of the second tithe in order to measure other coins of chulin, the same apply to Hanukkah. In other words, you try to juxtapose one to another. Amar Rabba, so Rabba responded and said, Gzera shema lo yechaven mishke lo tav. The reason it's because that the weight will not precisely equal, which means one will discover that the weight of the gold dinars is not equal to the weight of the sela that was used to weigh them. V'kama pekle ulecholin, and he will reconsider and render them to something that is unsanctified, which means they will maintain the original, which is a non-sacred status. So we have to use the money for what? For something that is chulin, unsanctified purpose, right? But if you light the wood chip for the purpose of Hanukkah light, so it's obvious that it's the whole idea is in order to perform a mitzvah, and there is no reason to put a decree. Okay, the next one. Mativ Rav Sheshet. In regards to lighting a menorah in the Beit HaMikdash, the Torah said in Vayikra, in Leviticus 24, Michutz leparochet ha'edut ya'aroch. They said outside of the veil of the testimony, in the tent of meeting, shall Aaron order from the evening to morning before Hashem, continually it should be a status forever throughout the generations. So what we understand from that? We understand that Aharon or other Kohanim needs to set up the menorah in order to prepare that for the lightning. So why God wanted in a certain way? Does God require the light to illuminate at night? All the 40 years that the Jewish people wander in the desert, they went by the light of Hashem, of God. So therefore, what's the purpose of that? They said in the book of Shemot, chapter 40, that the pillar of fire and pillar of protected them at the day, and the pillar at night. It's a constant protection. So Tosfot here elaborate on that. But what's the whole idea? אלא שעדות היא לבאי עולם שהשכינה שורה בישראל. That it's like a testimony to the whole world that the Shekhinah, the divine presence is rest among Israel. Ma'edut, how the menorah, it's a testimony. Amarav, zo ner ma'aravi. This is the westmost lamp in the candle burn, which is the shenoten bak shemen kemidat chavrotea. The candle, the menorah in the Beit HaMikdash carries 7 sticks that you put. So the Gemara said in Menachot, we study it in the Menachot Tzadik 98, that you don't put the menorah in the Heichal. The Heichal was a building, it looked like almost a square, but it's a little further, and the big length was from east to west. The entrance was from the east, and the Holy of Holies was in the west. So the menorah was in the eastern part of the sanctuary, that it's called sacred Kodesh. So so that's the story. But here he said that it was a testimony that because he put it the amount of shemen was half a log. So therefore Rashi explained, especially in the long days, like in the month of Tevet, which is like January, February. So that was a time that they need more. So they even during the summertime, Rashi said it's extended to the daytime that you really don't need the light. But so anyway, he explained here, היה מדליק היה מדליק והיה מסיים. So he started from the western candle, and he lit the other candles in the twilight time, and then at the time of the Tevet, like January's time, he leave it for the whole night. In other words, when the Kohen entered to the sanctuary in the morning, and he found that the candles extinguished, so he was take away the old wick, right, and he put a olive and the new one, and he prepared it for the following evening. So that's what he did with all the other candles. But the western candle, they said that was one of the miracles, that it was continuously for the entire day, and therefore the Kohen was not involved with it. That's the way he used to do it. That's Rashi here elaborate that beautifully, the whole process, how they do it. Tosfot disagree, but anyway, the Rashi explained it in a very succinct, in a very beautiful way. So it means that the eastern candle, the western candle, was one of those miracles of the Beit HaMikdash. וההכה, כיוון דקביעי נרות, So here, what you see, because the candles are basically permanent in the menorah. The opinion is, the Gemara said Menachot, that those sticks were very, very thick, and because they are so thick, the minute the Kohen pushed them downward in order to make them clear and easy to use. It means that the candles was permanently stick, and lo sagya de lo mishkil ve'adluki. So the Kohen cannot take the west candle and use it, because if he doesn't take from the western one, kashya. So how you can do it? Ben leman da'amar, regardless, the one who said that Rav forbade Hanukkah candles to transfer from one to another, mishum bazui mitzvah, because in the Beit HaMikdash the menorah use a stick. Uven leman da'amar mishum akhushe mitzvah. Why? Because he like reduce the amount of the mitzvah. Why? Because in the Beit HaMikdash they use it from the western candle, and they didn't worry about it. So they explained, and they said, Targema Rav Papa biptilot arukot. Rav Papa explained that it need to understand that it was a long weeks in the candle burn, which made it possible to reach the light directly from one lamp to another. So that's the reason why they do it. So they said, סוף סוף, למאן דאמר משום הכחוש שמצווה קשיא, קשיא. So, eventually, ultimately, according to one who said that one may not light from one lamp to lamp due to the weakening the mitzvah, so it's difficult, and the conclusion is that yes, indeed, it's difficult. That how he lights from the menorah, the candle of the menorah of the western one in the Beit HaMikdash. Maya ve'ala. What the conclusion we're taking in the Hanukkah candles when you're transferring from one to another? Amar Ravuna Bred Rav Yoshua Chazena. In order for us to understand it, אי הדלקה עושה מצווה, מדליקים מנר לנר. ואי הנחה עושה מצווה, אין מדליקים מנר לנר. Okay. The big question is, what exactly fulfilling the mitzvah? Trace a scenario. When you are holding an apple, okay, so you say the blessings, and then you take a bite of the apple. Now, when you light the Hanukkah candles, you make the bracha, and now you're lighting the candles. So what exactly making the mitzvah happen? Is the lighting the Hanukkah candles, that's the idea, so therefore you can transfer from one to another. The same as the Beit HaMikdash, that the lighting the menorah was a mitzvah, so you can transfer from one to another. But if you tell me that the key point in the mitzvah, the Rashba explains, is to put it outside and publicize the miracle, which means that lighting the candles is not the precondition to fulfill the mitzvah. So therefore, so Ravu said, Ein madlikim min ner lener, you cannot transfer it even by a stick, right? Because it's like bizui mitzvah, it's like they belittle, denigrating the mitzvah, because the key point is, it's not the lightning, is the location that you place it. The Ibailu. We have here a serious discussion. Hadlaka osa mitzvah, or anacha osa mitzvah? What's the big question here? So the Tosfot explains that here is a situation. You have a person that is a minor, or someone who's not in the right mind, like, insane, or someone who's have an issue of hearing, he is like deaf, okay? They light Hanukkah candles. Now they, for example, the deaf person not hearing, or the one who's not mentally capable, is not, okay. So they lighting Hanukkah candles. and the regular person take from that candles and transfer them to the entrance of the house. So they said it did not fulfill the mitzvah if you tell me that hadlaka osa mitzvah, if the lightning is the make the mitzvah. So if you're transferring from that invalid Hanukkah candles, you do not fulfill the mitzvah. But if you tell me that the halacha is that Hanukkah osa mitzvah, that the place that you located it, that's key the point of the mitzvah. So by taking the candles that was lit by people who are not acceptable and transferring it, it makes no difference as long as you put it by someone who's mentally capable, because you go by the hanacha, not by hadlaka. You're going by the place, the location you put it, and not by the place that you lit it. So we rejected it, and we said we go to the discussion. We said Tashma, Damar Rava, Hayat tafus ner Hanukkah v'omed, which means he hold in his hand the Hanukkah candles as long as it's lit. Lo asa velo klum. He did not do anything. Shma mina, hanacha osa mitzvah, which means, according to that opinion, by making the bracha and lightning, it's not enough. Only by placing it, that's the mitzvah. We rejected that when he said hatam haru'eh omer letzorko naki. If someone see it, he said he lighting it for the purpose of himself, not for fulfilling the mitzvah. So you don't have the promotion of the miracles. So he did not fulfill it. Even if you say that just lighting make the mitzvah, because it's not, people not take it as lighting candles. Tashma, Damar Rava, idlika bifnim veotzia. If a person lighting the Hanukkah candles and he carry it outside and he put the candles at the entrance, lo asa klum. He did not fulfill the mitzvah. Because what did he do? He did it inside and he put it outside. If you tell me that the key point is the lightning, so we understand that you need to do it in the place that you fulfill the mitzvah, the chalota mitzvah, which is outside. But therefore he didn't do the mitzvah. If you tell me that the location is the mitzvah, he lightning it inside his house, but he located it outside of his house. So we rejected that. We said hatam namei haro'eh omer letzorko adlaka. So again, someone will see it. What did he said? He said he lit it for himself and he put it outside for himself. So he didn't say because he lit it inside his house and not outside. What we learned earlier, that if you take it from someone who's not capable, it's you fulfill it as long as you located it outside. So therefore, if you do it without someone who's not capable, you do it by yourself inside the house, it's not the issue, tashma. So how do you want to prove that basically the hadlaka osa mitzvah, that the lightning is making the mitzvah? Damar Rabbi Yoshua ben Levi said, ashashit שהייתה דולקת והולכת כל היום כולו. If it was a candle that lengthened, that continued to burn the entire day of Shabbat, למוצאי שבת מחבר ומדליקה. That at the conclusion of Shabbat, one extinguishes it and light it again at the Hanukkah light. So what do you learn? You granted from that. So he said, היא אמרת בשלמה הדלקה עושה מצווה שפיר. היא אמרת הדלקה עושה מצווה, מחבר ומדליקה, מחבר ומדליקה, ומגבייה ומניחה ומדליקה מבא אלי. So again, that sugya will continue tomorrow. Just let's go to the practical הלכות. נר חלוקה מצווה להניחה בתוך 10. It's a mitzvah to place the Hanukkah lamp in the 10, in the 10 handbreadth of the ground, according to opinion of Rabbah. That's the Shulchan Aruch Orach Chaim 671. נר של חנוכה שניחה למעלה מ-20 אמה. If one placed the Hanukkah lamp more than 20 cubits, which is it's like about 12, above the 9 to 12 meter high of the ground, does not fulfill the mitzvah, and that's the Rambam הלכות Megillah, Hanukkah chapter 4. נר חנוכה מצווה להניחה בטפח הסמוך לפתח משמאל. When lighting the Hanukkah lamp outside of the house, it's a mitzvah to place it one handbreadth adjacent to the left side of the door. In a shul, the Hanukkah lamp is placed along the southern wall or on a table close to the wall. That's the Or HaChaim 671. אסור להרצות מעות נגד חנוכה. One may not use the light emanating from the Hanukkah lights for any purpose, even for an inconsequential one like counting money. You're not supposed to do it. So if you have a tzedakah box, you open the tzedakah box and you want to count the coin, you cannot use the Hanukkah candles for that. Next halacha, we learn in a sukkah, סיככה כהלכתה ויתרה בכרמים. Right? No sukkah decoration may be used for any purpose during the festival of Sukkot. If one explicitly stipulated prior to the beginning of the festival that he will use the decoration for the different purpose during the festival, so Rema said that use is permitted. The Magen Avraham elaborated and said that the custom today is to refrain from making such a stipulation. And in the Rama said that the idea is that using decoration hanging on the roofing of the sukkah, you can use it if you stipulate it, but he said it's preferable to make it very clear in advance, because otherwise it's very incongruous. Madlikim miner lener. When you need to light the Hanukkah candles, you may lighting the Hanukkah lamp directly from another. However, one may not kindle one Hanukkah lamp from another by means of a non-Hanukkah lamp. Okay? Matirim mibeged lebeged. One may unite from garment to garment. It's permitted to remove ritual fringes from one garment only in order to attach them different garment. And we also discuss a little bit הלכות Shabbat. It's permitted to drag even a large object like bed or bench across the ground on Shabbat, so long as he does not intend thereby to create a furrow on the ground. In creation of a furrow is in a inevitable consequences. It's called psik reishe. And therefore, the Magen Avraham said it's prohibited to drag the object if it's a psik reishe. But in general, we go by what is the person's intent. Now, like to conclude with the halacha of the Haya tafus ner Hanukkah ve'omed. One who holds a Hanukkah lamp in his hand, lights it, and then remains standing with it, he did not fulfill the mitzvah. Similarly, one who kindled the Hanukkah lamp inside his house and then placed it outside, so according to the Rambam, he did not fulfill the mitzvah, because the whole idea is publicized the mitzvah. In chapter 4, the Rambam said in Hilchot Megillah v'Chanukkah. But again, nowadays it's a serious question. Those who, the Shulchan Aruch said that those who have fear of the attack or fear of a situation like that, then they can light the Hanukkah candles inside their home instead.